Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. We are live here, in my eyes, from Jackie Robinson Stadium, where I am talking with the owner of the club, Bob Fregolle. And Bob, that's the only time I'm going to refer to you as Bob Fregolle, because we got other names we're going to talk about on this show.
We're going to dredge up the past, I'm afraid.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not so afraid of this. Where do we start? We got a guy that calls himself Motor Mouth and Motor City Mad Mouth. Folks, if you can tell me that there's some fireworks on this show, we are just getting started. So,
I didn't tell you about Froggy. That's an whole other story.
Oh, that's okay. I've heard them all.
Froggy the Motor Mouth, but we'll get to that later.
Oh, no problem. I got news for you. We got a lot of things we're going to get to in the broadcast, but the first and foremost thing that I'm really thrilled about is, since we're in the sports business, I'm too old to get any pom-poms here, so I'm not going to even try, or that's an ACL injury waiting to happen. But folks, when you talk about the story of the Daytona Tortugas, it's pretty straightforward. When Major League Baseball decided to go ahead and downsize the operations, that they were one of the franchises that they were considering eliminating, and if cooler heads prevailed and not committing the crime of the century, thankfully the Daytona Tortugas were spared. And Motormouth, okay, since I had to give you that one, okay, tell me how that all came about.
Well, it's in the fall of 2018, we learned that Major League Baseball wanted to contract about 40 teams from minor league baseball out of 160. And we were on that original contraction list. Most of that, I have to say, was driven by MLB's desire to improve facilities.
Okay.
And it wasn't any more complicated than that. They looked across the landscape in the country of all the facilities, and teams with facilities that were old and tired and not meeting modern standards made the list first. They also wanted to contract some of the lower level leagues, believing that they didn't need that wide funnel to fuel the ball players of tomorrow, that analytics could probably take over for a lot of that. So anyway, we were on the list. It was a shock. We immediately reached out to the Reds. I live in Cincinnati. I know these guys personally, and reached out to them, got the lay of the land from them, and they confirmed that we needed to work to improve our facility here in Jackie Robinson Ballpark. The city had just put in $1 million turf field, which was jacks or better to open, so to speak. And that kept us in the game as far as the Reds concerned, but they needed assurance from the city that the city would invest in this magnificent historic facility to improve the player development facilities. So it was almost like, red phone, black phone, calling the Reds on one phone and calling the city on the other. But Jim Chisholm, the city manager here in Daytona, and the city council all got together very, very quickly in the matter of days once we learned what the real issue was, and put an initial $4 million pledge publicly on the table. The Reds heard about that from me. They were very excited that the city was going to put their money where their mouth was and really support the franchise. And they said at that time, this was probably around May or June, that they would go to bat for us. But we really didn't know until December, when the 11th hour came and went, that we actually made the cut. But without the Reds, and surely without the city, we wouldn't be sitting here talking today.
Tell us about the relationship, Motor Mouth, okay? Because I really have to live off of this one here, Motor City Mad Mouth. We're going to do it, period, okay? But what about the relationship that you guys have with the Reds? First of all, how long of a relationship do you have with them? Are you under contract for a specific period of time? And I know the one thing from my history with them was when I lived in the Tampa area, working with the Tampa Tarpons from 1984 to 86 as a writer for the Tampa Tribune, that they definitely wanted at that time to be in the Florida State League, and long before they began to readjust the system with minor leagues, that they've always had a vested interest in the state of Florida, Florida State League.
Yeah. We have an excellent relationship with the Reds. When we started negotiating for this club in 2014, they were still the Daytona Cubs.
Okay.
The Cubs decided to leave for Myrtle Beach, and the way the music stopped, the Reds, who were in Bakersfield, jumped at the chance to come to Daytona And we bought the club, building that relationship with Cincinnati from 2015 on. So we now have a 10-year license agreement with the Reds. They did not want to leave Daytona. They like the facility here now with the field. They love the fans. They were just looking for assurances that we could modernize our player development facilities.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I was at this ballpark, the game lasted all but 4.5 innings, and they ended up playing the Tampa Tarpons. But at that time, they were the New York Yankees. So I found myself writing a story. How neat is it to cover the Yankees and the Reds, knowing that I had been on both ends of the whole thing. But meanwhile, here we are, and my goal is make it 9 innings. But with this brand new turf here and a beautiful day that sits upon us, I have no feeling that we can go the distance.
Yes, I think that's right. In fact, in 2018, with the old field, we lost, if my memory correct, upwards of 17, 18, or 19 games due to rainouts or unplayable field conditions, and that's just unacceptable. 2019, we put the turf field in, the city did, and we lost 2 games.
Really?
So, I mean, this is basically, we're playing on a giant drainage facility. So that's wonderful here. I don't think it took anything away from the historic nature of this park. It's a beautiful field, and I think it complements this. Now we got to do the rest with the locker rooms, the clubhouses, the batting facilities, etc. And that we'll do here in the coming years.
Yeah. So again, we talk about the one thing that I've noticed about the Cincinnati Reds with my history of dealing with them. They aren't afraid to go ahead and invest money at all in their player development. And I think that as an owner of a franchise, that has to give you a very comforting feeling, doesn't it?
Sure does. I read just this morning where Baseball America rates the Reds farm system as one of the top 4 or 5 in minor league baseball. So that's really comforting. They just had a great draft. You know, I'll tell you, Scott, more than anything, it's the relationship is respectful. It's complimentary. I mean, it's open. It's honest. I remember in 2015, after the Reds came here, how much the fans said, boy, we really notice a difference, even in the players and the coaches, now that the Reds are here, and the quality of their interaction with the fans. So it's just a great family. Bob Castellini is the principal owner up there. They're just great people, and they're great people to work with.
Now, I know for a period of time that the Daytona Tortugas were affiliated with the Pensacola Blue Wahoos. And actually, that's when I first learned about the Pensacola Blue Wahoos, which was our second stop on our summer tour.
Sure.
So I don't want to overlap with the two, but that's where I did learn about the Blue Wahoos. So, you know, how interesting is it, though, was the relationship when the Daytona Tortugas were lined up with the Blue Wahoos, knowing that you still had the Cincinnati Reds connection?
Yeah, you know, there isn't really a whole lot of interaction, to be honest, other than because we have a great relationship with the owner, general manager, we exchange ideas, exchange best practices, etc. But in the old system, each minor league club either signed a 2 or a 4-year affiliate agreement, let's call it, with the parent club. And back then, the Blue Wahoos were the AA club of the Reds. So we fed the Wahoos as the advanced A affiliate of the Reds as well. They end up, after their 2 or 4-year period was over, going with the Minnesota Twins. That was the old system. Every 2 or 4 years, you could change affiliations. In this new system, as licensees to Major League Baseball, each license agreement is a 10-year agreement. So it's going to bring a lot more stability to that musical chair game, build better relationships, build longer, more strategic, longer-term plans with these clubs. I think it's a real plus.
What was it like in 2020 with COVID-19, knowing that you didn't have a season?
Well, we went from the frying pan into the fire. We had the dark cloud of contraction looming over us through 2020, the entirety of 2020. If that wasn't enough, along came COVID. And we thought that was 100th year of baseball in Daytona last year. And we thought that, in fact, we had planned and knew we were going to have the all-time best year in the history of baseball in Daytona last year, coming off of record-breaking attendance in 2019. And then March hit, and the whole place got shuttered. So it was, I know I can't say this on live media, but it was HE double toothpicks.
Well, yeah. Well, it's a difficult situation for you, without a doubt. And what I can say on live is your situation was in limbo. It was unfortunate. And let's face the reality. I'm not a math major, but I can count to 100, although it may take me a while to do it. Or for anybody that ever reaches the century mark age-wise, it's probably nobody anyways. But it's 100 years. So with that saying, let's spill that over a little bit. Let's put you guys in the category of the Tokyo Olympics, okay? Yeah. And how does a guy like me put you into the Tokyo Olympics? Well, they had the Olympics in 2020, but they carried them on in 2021, and you guys are kind of in the same situation where your celebration was maybe just a year later, knowing that you've been around 100 years anyway.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny you bring that up because, like the Tokyo Olympics, we went 20 months with no baseball revenue. We sold chickens and we had dance recitals to try to generate a little bit of money. But imagine a business going 20 months with no revenue. The ownership group, of which I am a part of, there's 3 of us.
Okay.
Reese Smith is the principal owner, then me, and then Rick French.
Okay.
The first thing we did was we looked at each other and said, we're in this to win it. We're in it to win it. We called the city. We said, this is going to be very difficult, but we're not going to abandon Daytona. Financially, we're going to do what it takes to get through COVID. We called the Reds and said, Reds, we're going to do what it takes to go through this thing, and we did. We had to let go of a lot of staff, cut our operations to the bone, but we survived. And we came forward into here. I have to give a shout out. We received government, the PPP money, some of that support money for COVID, and without that, we wouldn't have been able to make it. I mean, it would have been extremely painful. But we got through it. We got into this year. We still didn't know what kind of season we were going to have, even as late as March. And now here we've got 15 or 16 games left in the season, and we're counting our blessings.
The irony is when we talk about the Pensacola situation, though, Bob Fregolle, they did get creative with their Airbnb and made it work. But I don't think that you're in a comfortable enough situation where you could get that creative when your main objective was do whatever you got to do to keep baseball alive in Daytona. More so the fact that they're a newer market, so to speak, and they had a little more money behind them, and they had a guy obviously that was deeply rooted in the community.
Yeah. So
the situations were a little bit different. So you were in survival mode. They were the new kid on the block, and obviously their stadium's a little different than yours. Yours is more of a fixer-upper. And I'm not trying to say one's any better than the other, but your situation's like, as you and I would say, the difference between a black and white TV and a color TV.
Yeah, but we went through the same things. We all, looked to optimize the organization. We did as much as we could to help the community through COVID, through donations and a lot of volunteerism from the remaining staff here. We fortunately had the Tortugas Care Foundation going for us,
right,
which is a foundation we set up several years ago, which benefited first responders and kept our community focus alive. So, but that's the past.
Right.
We have gotten through COVID. Still, this is a wonky year. Today, I'm down here planning for 2022, and so I think the trajectory is good. We're going to get all this behind us, and we got a lot of baseball ahead of us.
When you compare the fact that you're in a low A league versus the Florida State League, let's face the reality. You had the cream of the crop before, now you're more in the development. Do you see any difference in the way things are done, knowing that the levels are a little bit different in terms of the talent level? I mean, let's face the reality. There's a little bit of a difference in the product on the field in the Florida State League compared to where it is a bit now.
Yeah, I mean, going from high A, which would have been the 4th stop in the Reds ladder, to the first step in that ladder has been a bit of an adjustment. But yeah, the games take longer. There's maybe a few more errors, a few more pass balls, but it's still great baseball. I asked the fans this question early on. Often, do you notice a difference? And they say, yeah, we notice a difference. But we kind of like it. There are more runs scored. There's more base runners. But our job as an affiliate is really principally to provide the best environment for these kids to develop and become the Cincinnati Reds of the future. doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you are double A, triple A, or low A. And that's what we're doing, and that's what these kids are out there doing right now. So overall, to be honest with you, Scott, I don't care. You know, it's baseball, and we still love being a part of it.
I don't think you could be a part of a better organization than the Reds. And the reason why I say that is for many years they planted themselves in Tampa for a lot of years. So the word stability easily defines the Cincinnati Reds. Let's face the reality. If you've ever been to Al Lopez Field, they played there a lot of years. And I remember, again, my great times back there. So I know that they want to keep things as stable as they can, especially down in the Florida market, let alone the fact that Florida's a whole lot closer than where they were before they were able to get back in this market at all. So I think you have to feel very good in the sense that the organization you're working with, to me, believes in stability, but more importantly, Bob, their track record definitely indicates it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, selfishly, Scott, I live in Cincinnati now, and when the Cincinnati Reds announced they were coming to Daytona, the Fregolle family whooped and hollered because we're season ticket holders of the Reds. I mean, half of my T-shirts in my closet are either a third University of Michigan, a third Cincinnati Reds, and a third Daytona Tortugas. So we're pretty happy to be part of the Reds family.
Well, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. You're from the Metro Detroit area. I know you were waiting.
Yeah, my roots are Detroit for sure.
Were you ever a Tigers fan at all?
I still am.
Are you really?
You know, I grew up everything Detroit. So for better or worse, that's what I listened to on my AM radio. You know, when my parents sent me to bed at night, thinking I was going to sleep. I was listening to Ernie Harwell call Detroit Tigers games. So, you know, I'll forever be a Tigers fan.
Well, now you're really opening up another can of worms, because Ernie Harwell was a mentor of mine and like an adopted uncle. Yeah, and Ernie, to me, was as close as two people can get. Now, but when you look at the Daytona Tortugas...
Can I hear my Ernie invitation?
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another game at Tiger Stadium. We got high skies for the game today against the New York Yankees.
This guy's trying to take my job. Well, and you know, I tell you talk about the Cincinnati Reds. Once upon a time at Al Lopez Field, Bob, Ernie and I did like an inning of play-by-play with my cassette tape recorder. I don't think Justin would understand back in the day what a cassette tape recorder was, but it's okay. You don't need to. Okay, we have all these digital things going on.
Yeah.
But I did like an inning of play-by-play with Ernie at a Reds game over at Al Lopez Field, and Ernie Harwell said it would be long gone. A foul ball hit with a guy from Grosse Pointe Woods.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell you,
a woman from Saline, Michigan grabbed that one.
That's it.
That's right.
Motor City Mad Mouth with Motor Mouth here. We're continuing on this conversation on the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgenroth. Bob Fregolle is my guest here at beautiful, warm Daytona. Thankfully, I brought another shirt because this one's not going to make it through the night.
I think I'll be changing before the game tonight.
Oh, I know I will. I'm glad I brought another one here. So let's talk about the relationship that the Daytona community has with the Daytona Tortugas. Because obviously, a smaller town, a beach town, a very tourist town. But what kind of a relationship do you have with the community, the team and the community? Because I'll tell you, a lot of people don't realize when you go to professional baseball, minor league baseball, that the community is so entrenched with the team. And you guys have done it for a lot of years.
Yeah. I mean, we've really made it a point over the last 6-7 years of owning this club to step up our involvement with the community. I think we have an outstanding relationship with Daytona, Volusia, Flagler counties, and our fans. We have, I'm going to say, there are no better fans, surely, in the Florida State League, or no more passionate fans in baseball than Daytona Tortuga fans. We are involved in everything from school programs, reading programs, to, as I said, a lot of COVID relief efforts, and all the way down through the Miracle League. We are one of the big sponsors of the Miracle League, which is baseball for young men and women with physical and mental challenges. We help them build their field in New Smyrna Beach, and so that's just an example. And I think it's good. It can always be better, but I'm very pleased with our relationship.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that I could ever sit in a park like this, or anyone in Florida, especially when it comes to the Class A level, without saying that I'm not sitting in a Florida State League game, because you know what? I am not changing. Okay, I'm not. I feel like tonight, it's the Jupiter Hammerheads, I believe, are your opponent tonight. Ironically, the organization that's connected with the pair of clubs that I work with, the Marlins.
Yeah.
And yet I still have loyalties to the Reds, obviously, that I have a history. Of course, now I have a fellow Detroiter sitting in here that can understand what pop is, okay? And they can understand what I'm sure you, great Scott. Okay, come on, give me some other Detroitism, Pop. Come on, this is
Saunders hot bitter
Oh
sweet.
God!
2 scoops of butter pecan.
Oh goodness!
Stroh's beer.
Oh yeah. And what
Fago.
And Town
9 Mile
Club.
Mac.
What about Town
Town
Club?
Club. I mean, the list goes on.
Oh, I know, unbelievable. See, just
The
look at that.
Varsity Shop Sporting Goods in Birmingham, Michigan.
Well, you're going to do that. I'm going to give All Pro Sporting Goods a nod out in. See, Justin, he's out there looking on his phone here, and I know somehow, some way, his ears are working here. Justin Roque, by the way, the guy that's helping us get all this business done here in Daytona, but he's getting a Detroit lesson, getting a natty lesson. Not that he needed it, Dave.
I'll tell you what, Justin's sitting right off here, the Rock. But honest to God, there is no better broadcaster that I've heard and known personally than Justin Rock. He is amazing. None better.
Well, I'll tell you what, and I'm saying this on live radio here or whatever, if you ever want a sidekick for Justin once in a while, all you got to do is go ahead and give me a call. I'll be more than happy to take the 3-hour drive and sit in the booth with this guy and share some old school stuff with some new school stuff and be like, that's something that
the mic is probably always open.
Well, that's it. I'm telling you. So as we continue this conversation, though, we talk about the history in Daytona and the things that you're looking to do. You know, did you ever have any aspirations of ever owning a club in the metropolitan Detroit area, a minor league club? Because I know the one thing they've done in the Midwest League is they've actually, you know, I know they've changed everything around nowadays, but they had clubs up in the Michigan area as well.
Yeah, there are. When I was looking to get into this side of baseball, one of the criteria was that I needed to have some connection with the team. And, of course, Detroit was, obviously there, and Cincinnati was up there. So I'm very happy to be part of the Reds family. I'll tell you another thing, Scott. I can only see being affiliated with one club like this. There are a lot of people out there that own multiple clubs. I put my heart and soul into this. I can't imagine sharing time with anybody else. It'd be like having 2 lives. I've been married to Lori for 40 years, and it's been one woman the whole time. So it'd be the same with baseball. But I'm going to ride this one out with the Reds.
Well, and that's good too. Now, when we talk about the way the game has changed, though, let's not kid ourselves. The minor leagues, Bob, is known for implementing different rule changes. They're experimenting a lot of different things. I know the man on second base rule originated down here. I know they're talking about robot umpires, pitch clock, etc. Okay, we'll put etc. as a thing here. What are your thoughts about the way baseball itself, is played under the different rule changes that you can see rules as they evolutionize the game down the line, plus what you're seeing firsthand?
I would say, I'm basically a traditionalist. Having said that, and so I don't like tinkering with the game very much. Having said that, I think the game needs some tinkering. It's not necessarily competitive with all target demographics for sports going forward. Games take too long. There's not enough action. And so I applaud Major League Baseball for, using little petri dishes around the country to test and learn, some of which are going to be great ideas that blossom and move, and some of which are going to be declared duds, and they're going to die and go away. So I applaud them for doing that. I like being part of it. As I said, our job is to help develop players for the future, and being experiments is part of that.
I know that a guy I had the good pleasure of speaking with, Dick Schofield, is your player developmental coach.
Yeah.
You being a Detroiter, I had no choice but to talk to him at the top of the thing. Then he hit a grand slam home run against the Detroit Tigers back in 1986 that led to an 8-run Angel win over the Tigers. Did you know that?
No.
Well, guess what? Your coach here burned us on a given day, and we actually joked around about it. So that's a little bit of trivia. Of course, he's on your payroll, and he's helping you with the product on the field. But when you look at the involvement, how much involvement and that you have with the team and the interaction that you have with your players, do you feel like, being an owner, when you come here once a month or whatever, as often as you, that that you really look at yourself like a father figure to a lot of these young players?
The way the system is set up, all player development is a direct line to the parent club.
Okay.
So all of the players, the coaches, their salary, the whole training regimen, the development process is owned completely by the parent club. We own the business. So the analogy I use is a theater where the actors and the drama coaches and the orchestra are all owned by the parent club, and we run the theater. So as a result, there is no overlap per se. There's a symbiotic relationship,
right?
Of course. So that with that as background, I would say it's really up to the owner how involved they are, how close they get, what opportunities they use to get closer to players. And there have been a number of players over the years that I have gotten very close with and still stay in contact with. We're either Facebook friends. A player called me texted me from spring training this year. He's probably going to make the big league club, move to Cincinnati, and he wanted help finding a place to live. So obviously it's very gratifying. You have made that kind of a personal connection with people. So I think a lot has to do with the owner and are they involved locally? Are they here? Do they make themselves available? Etc.
Are there any particular players that you've enjoyed nice interactions with over the years that you would like to share out there? Because obviously you sound very enthusiastic and humbled by just the ability to make friends. I mean, you're not, you come across to me, obviously I have a Metro Detroit bias, but forget that, okay? I'm talking about you as a person, that when you talk about players that you just enjoy friendships with, that's what life is all about, right? It's about friendships and developing relationships long after the careers are over.
Well, there are several. A couple stand out. TJ Antone, is a pitcher who I got to know here, stayed in touch, saw each other in spring training. He's asked me some mentoring questions along the line. And then Tyler Stevenson got to be a good I wouldn't say good friend, but met him here, made a connection with his mom and dad, saw them when they visited Cincinnati here recently. We happened to be at the same game, so we spent some time together. So those are very gratifying. And I'm glad that I can help these kids in any way they need it.
As we put a button on this broadcast, Bob, and again, the whole idea behind us being out here is that baseball is alive and well in Daytona Beach, Florida. And I think that's the one thing, folks, I want you to get out of this. This is a ball club that was nearly no longer going to be existent. I know, what are some of the upgrades that you're going to be making on Jackie Robinson Stadium?
Well, I think the clubhouses are going to need to be modernized. Some of the more practical things. 20 years ago, if someone said there was going to be a female ump in baseball, people would have scratched their head, or a female coach. And so as a result, facilities were not built with women's restrooms, changing facilities, locker facilities. Well, guess what? There are women umps now, and there are women coaches, and we don't have the facilities for them. So that would be an obvious one where we're going to need to upgrade. Training facilities. Do we have the right kind of space for training facilities? The right whirlpools? How about the batting cages? Particularly in a place like Florida where it rains a lot, we have private batting cages, pitching tunnels. So music is not a problem if you can hear this in the background. But so those are some of the examples. From a fan standpoint, we're going to try to marry in. We don't have a proper store here, so concessions I think has some opportunity for improvement. I don't know if we're going to end up with a pool or a hot tub in the right field corner, but who knows? Right. So we've got a lot of work to do. I can't give the city of Daytona and the county of Volusia enough credit here. They are wonderful partners. Derek Henry, the city manager, and the mayor here are just outstanding. The city council, they're great partners to help us take this into the future.
No broadcast, Bob, would ever be complete with you unless I talk about playing in Jackie Robinson's park. So what's it like for you to be the owner of a team that plays in such an iconic baseball game, a park that's named after them? Not only when they walk in here to see a
where the statue of Jackie looks, I look up and say thank you. I mean, it is profoundly emotional at times to be playing in this ballpark. We thank people like Jackie Robinson for being the pioneers and courageous people that they were, not only from the game of baseball, but for our country, from how civil rights movement. He was so profound. So we're very, very fortunate. We love the outdoor museum that we have here at Jackie. We're looking for ways to improve it. We believe it is an obligation for us to continue his legacy. We're gonna do it in the very best way we can. So it's a real honor, I have to say.
Do you think that a lot of your players, as well as other players, when they come here, when they look at Jackie Robinson and stuff, they appreciate the history of at least even if they don't know about
every single one of them? It's not lost on them. That home plate there, I don't think has moved an inch longitudinally since March 17, 1946. Stepped up to that plate at the Montreal Royals. So those guys are standing up there. I think that guy's thinking about batting practice right now, but every one of us, including the players and the coaches, just know how important this place is for the story and the role that Jackie played.
We're in a baseball game, so as we wrap this broadcast up, the Field of Dreams on last night, the Yankees and the White Sox over in Ironville, Iowa. Did you have a chance to look at that and realize that, every day you're living your Field of Dreams, much less than an historical thing? What are your thoughts about the fact that you do have the Field of Dreams concept that is something that you think baseball will bring on, and did you have a chance to enjoy last night for the game?
So I was here at the game, so I did not get a chance to watch it. My wife taped it for me. I have watched every YouTube snippet that I could. I was at that stadium in 2014 passing through Dyersville, and I got to walk in the corn. I got to come out of the corn. I've seen that movie like so many of us 1,000 times, it seems. Without getting too metaphorical, in my mind, I've been involved one way or another in baseball since I think I was 5 years old. Every baseball diamond is a field. And there's no greater sport in the world than the sport of baseball. So whenever I see it, whether it's Little League kids or here or Great American Ballpark, I think about the dreams of everybody that's ever had the privilege of playing this game. So before I start crying, that's the way I think.
Oh, you're crying around, sweating, smoking a lot of perspiration. Last time I saw a game was our Riverfront stand over in Cincinnati. But as we wrap up this edition of the Sports Game, my name is Scott Morgan, Motor City Manmouth. Glad to be joined by Bob Fregolle. And Bob obviously is Motor Mouth, so we have a lot of Motor City connections there along the way.
By the way, Motor Mouth was my high school baseball coach, just for the context.
Oh, that's okay. I'm not mad. You're still from Detroit, so it don't make any difference. Women's Hospital, Sinai Hospital, for all you Detroiters out there, it is what it is. So, but meanwhile, Bob has been kind enough to join us on the show today. And once again, we're talking about the fact that I am so thrilled to death that the Daytona Tortugas are still the Daytona Tortugas. And I hope that they remain that way for as long as I'm alive and doing something, because there's no community more deserving to have a team than you guys. So, Bob, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been an unbelievable time here. And once again, you guys are a class act for sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you, buddy.
You bet.